No, you're the one who's having a quarter-life crisis and trying to repress it by making booktube videos when you should be dealing with other stuff right now. Hi everybody, let's just forget that you saw that first bit of the video. Today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of January. I read 6 books for a total of 1,262 pages. One of the books I gave 2 stars, 2 of them I gave 3 stars, 2 of them I gave 4 stars, and 1 of them I gave 5 stars. So let's talk about all of them in order of my least favorite to favorite. My least favorite book of the month was Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon, which... I mean, no wonder the cover is messy, because the book is messy too. I did not like this book. I was very disappointed in it. I can't say that I expected much from it, because I had heard horror stories, but it was a lot worse than I thought it would have been. If you didn't know, Everything Everything is the story of a girl called Madeline who has primary immunodeficiency, which is a condition that renders its patients, in layman's terms, allergic to everything. So because of this, she has lived a very quarantined life, and she has never been able to leave her house. She's very much content with this lifestyle, and she accepts it until this cute boy moves next door and, you know, catalyzes her desire to see the outside world. I will start off this video by saying that I do think that Nicola Yoon is an exceptionally talented author. She has this particular format in which she gives us these very short chapters that help highlight the emotional significance of certain parts of the stories, and also allows the reader to be engaged and to move through the book with pace, and that's coupled together with the fact that she just has really good prose. She strikes the beautiful balance of having a very simple writing style but having it be very beautiful and eloquent at the same time, which is a very difficult thing for authors in this particular genre to do. However, the writing was the only redeemable thing about this book, because everything else was just an absolute mess. First of all, I think the big elephant in the room when it comes to this book is the representation of primary immunodeficiency. A lot of people complain about it for obvious reasons. If you've read the book, you know what happened in the end. I will just say that I cannot speak to that because I do not have this condition. I don't know anybody with this condition, and I'm not an expert on it, although I do think, based on, you know, the obvious reasons that I don't want to spoil, that Nicola Yoon could have handled it a bit more responsibly. What I would rather do right now is just leave a link in the description down below to a review that was done by someone who is an expert on this particular disease or condition, whatever you want to call it. I highly recommend that you read that if you want to know more about that aspect of this book. But my major issue with this book is that it had its priorities just jacked up. This is a romance story when it should not have been a romance story. If you've read this book, you would know that the main crux of the main character's situation, of her dilemma, is her relationship with her mother. I think this would have been a more impactful, powerful, and groundbreaking read if it focused more on the relationship between this girl and her mother and how that has an influence on her current dynamic. But it wasn't. It just turned into this romance story with this little boy who just moves next door and she falls in love with him just out of the blue. And listen, I mean, I'm all for romance when it's done well. But this romance wasn't done that well, and it featured a trope that I hate so much, and that is the trope of the perfect manic pixie dream boy. I don't know if that's what you want to call it, but usually it's like the perfect guy who comes into the girl's life. He's quirky, he's sassy, he's down to earth, he's hot, whose only character flaw is an unfortunate life circumstance, which is not a character flaw. I just really didn't like this book. I could go on and on and on. There were some stupid ass things that happened in this book that I could just, you know, just talk about right now, but I'll just leave it at I couldn't give this book more than 2 stars. I do not recommend it. Skip over this one and go straight to Nicola Yoon's other book and whatever else she publishes in the future. So now on to the 2 3-star books. I have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by J.K. Rowling, which is a very tiny companion to the Harry Potter series. It is a textbook that is used in the Harry Potter series to learn about magical creatures that exist in the world. It's written by Newt Scamander, who we now know as the star of the Fantastic Beasts movies, which let's not talk about that mess. I liked it for the most part. I liked the introduction. I like that we got to get a bit of an idea as to how the classification of magical beast works. The bulk of it was cool too. It's basically like an encyclopedia of all the magical creatures that exist, and I was more interested in the more dangerous ones, the ones that got like 4 to 5 X's, because they just seemed to be the most intriguing to me. But the rest were just like rats and lizards with powers, and I really could have cared less. Objectively, it was good, so I just gave it 3 stars. It's nothing to scream about, to be honest. The next 3-star book I read was Fence Volume 1 by C.S.Pacat and Joanna the Mad. This one is the first in the Fence comic book series, obviously, and I really liked it. I wanted to give it 4 stars because it's a teaser. It's only like 27 pages long, and I felt, to be fair, because it's a teaser, I would give it 4 stars. But it wasn't long enough to have an impact on me, so I eventually settled on 3 stars. It's a story about a boy whose name I really can't remember. I think his last name is Cox. He enters a fencing tournament / academy or whatnot, and he is pitched up against this guy who is a very well-known professional fencer in the sports field, whatever you want to call it. That's the one who's actually featured on the cover of this book, not the main protagonist, although I don't know if he becomes like a main protagonist throughout the rest of the series. I'm not sure. So I'm assuming the series is just going to follow their relationship, their dynamic, and how their tensions might extend beyond competitive, if you catch my drift. The illustrations were really great. The dialogue was kind of awkward, but for the most part, I'm excited to move on with it. The next book I gave 4 stars to was another comic book, and that was the first in the Ms.Marvel series, so Ms. Marvel Volume 1. Let's just be frank about something. I don't care about Marvel. I don't care about DC. Like, I watch the movies arbitrarily. I don't really care about the comic books. I don't care that. I'm not really that much into the franchise. I picked up this book solely and purely because I heard that it is about a girl who is Pakistani American and Muslim and a superhero. A Muslim superhero who is a female and who is South Asian. Like, that is what I need in my life. So that's why I picked this book up. I absolutely loved it. In it, we're introduced to our main protagonist, Kamala Khan, who has just recently discovered that she got superhero powers, like, you know how most of these go. I enjoyed it for the most part. It was just kind of like setting up the stage for the rest of the series, the kind of villains and obstacles that Kamala is going to endure as her story progresses. The illustrations were great. The dialogue was again a bit awkward. I'm starting to think that maybe I'm just not into graphic novel dialogue. I don't know, but I liked it. I'm very excited to see where it goes. I really can't say much about it for now, and I would have probably given this 3 stars if it was, honestly, I just like it because she's Muslim and she's brown. Let's be honest here for a second. No apologies given, no fucks to give. Moving on to the next 4-star book, which was Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. This one is a YA contemporary. It is about 3 biological half-siblings who were all given up for adoption. We have Maya, who's 15, Grace, who is 16, and Joaquin, who is 17. They have only recently heard about each other, so we are following them in this story as they meet for the first time and try to bond and form a relationship and possibly discuss maybe looking for their birth mother. If I go into the details of the story, I will be here all day, but just know that I absolutely loved this book. It is a book that I think deals with the whole conversation and topic of family and family as it relates to adoption in such a layered and nuanced way. I love the way that this book really and truly wasn't only about these 3 siblings connecting with each other or trying to form a relationship with each other, but it really does follow them individually, like their individual lives and struggles, and it doesn't feel as if any of that is cut short, even though we are balancing between 3 perspectives. We learn throughout the entire story about the life experiences of each of these 3 siblings and how those life experiences have come to shape the persons that they are, and how the persons that they are affect how they relate to each other, and how they ultimately come to decide what they want to do with their new relationship. It was a really special book. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars actually. I don't know why I took away that half a star. It just didn't make it up. It wasn't 100% for me, but it was still really great, and I highly, highly, highly recommend that you pick it up. Apologies for the camera shift, my memory decided to run out. My favorite book of the month was I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erika Sanchez. This is a YA contemporary set in Chicago, and in it we're following a girl called Julia whose older sister Olga passed away. Olga was the embodiment of the stereotypical perfect Mexican daughter. However, after her death, Julia begins to uncover some unsettling truths which contradict that title that Olga held, whilst discovering herself in the process as well. In it, we see Julia struggle with her mental health, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. We saw how this had an impact on her friendship, on a new romance that she tries to embark on her relationship with her mother and her father, especially her mother, which was extremely intense throughout the entire novel, by the way. And as I said before in a video collaboration thing that I did with Kathy, which I will link up here, it's a story that implicitly centers issues of race, socioeconomic status, and immigration within the context of all of this. Throughout this book, the only thing present about Olga was her absence. Oh my god, that sounded so profound. But it's true, she haunts the entire novel, and you feel that haunting throughout the entire novel, throughout the entire story, as Julia is growing and becoming a new person, and I absolutely adore it. I gave this book 5 stars. I couldn't give it anything less than that. I have heard people complain about the representation of the Mexican family, about it being perhaps a bit too stereotypical, about it being a bit, the mother was a bit too strict. Not all families are like that. I totally and completely understand that, but I think I'm smart enough to know that not all families are like that. But then again, I cannot speak to that representation because I'm not Mexican American. I loved it, and I definitely think that you should read it. So please go read it. But that's everything for the month of January. If you've read any of these books and you have any thoughts on them, you are more than welcome to express those in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading.